What we thought were probably some of the most intense downdrafts within that hail, because we need a strong updraft to support it, and then it comes down in those downdrafts on the north side. Can you kind of explain or diagram for us, the tornado itself seemed to be on the south side of the supercell. Is that a fairly classic location for the tornado and the hook echo to form?
Yeah, the tornado tends to form on the southwest side of the supercell. Do we have? Can we have a look at a radar, perhaps, in my screen, so I can view, point out to the viewers? It's in a hook, and still, this storm does still appear to have this supercell character to it. The tornado does form on the southwest flanks. There we go. And you see still a little appendage coming down out of the southwest corner of the storm. That's where the rain-cooled air wraps around here. And this little notch, warm air is still trying to go in. Now, at the moment, that inflow is off to your north. We may be seeing a possibility of the storm trying to recycle with yet a new tornado forming as it now appears to be moving, about ready to move into Banner County in Nebraska, having moved out of Wyoming, about ready, the rotating part of the storm about ready to move into Nebraska.
We watched this from multiple vantage points, Dr. Forbes, on the radar when we were over in Banner County, Nebraska. We saw a storm flare north of Cheyenne. At the time it started developing, and probably for the first half hour to 45 minutes of its life, it did not look that impressive on radar. How can you determine on radar itself what kind of storm is going to develop a tornado, or can you, or is that the purpose of Vortex 2?
Well, that's a big purpose of Vortex 2. That I was watching the storm. It very quickly, just in a matter of within 10 or 15 minutes, developed, though, that kind of appendage that I was showing, indicating that it had developed a strong rotation. And then, literally in the 5 minutes as we came on air here, it developed a very well-defined hook echo with that. So it very quickly, within a period of 15 to 20 minutes, went, as you say, from not having apparently any rotation to one that had very strong rotation within it. It developed that hook echo, a fish hook, a little curl on the southwest side.
Again, to review for everyone what we've witnessed here in the past hour in Goshen County, Wyoming, deployed with Vortex 2, we witnessed the complete life cycle of a tornado as a storm cell off to the north of Cheyenne was a right turner and came right towards us and became a very large wedge tornado on the ground for roughly 20 to 25 minutes. And then it began to rope out, became more horizontal as the top of the tornado and the base of the tornado became very separated, and then the storm now has pushed off. We have not witnessed another tornado since. What we have witnessed are significantly cooler temperatures and a lot more rain now than we had pre-tornado. When the tornado was coming towards us, we had zero precipitation. We didn't even have any hail pre-storm. But then again, our vantage point was more or less from the southeast, and the tornado came directly towards us. You're more likely to see the hail shafts on the north side of the storm. Stick net teams have deployed their entire stick net probe devices. There are 24 of them. The road that we're on right here, folks, is a north-south facing road. So what they did is they deployed them at 2-mile spacing. And then the entire complex comes right over the stick nets. No tornado came over the stick nets themselves. The tornado actually lifted before it got here. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because what they can still measure are winds, precipitation, humidity, and what may be really key in determining how tornadoes form and dissipate is temperature. And so the radars have been deployed, the stick nets, the mesonets, and the probes have all been deployed, as well as photogrammetry. What they'll do now is take photographic and video evidence of the tornado. Dr. Forbes, you've been with us this entire time. One thing I want to ask you about is what happens after this now, because there are storm surveyors here. Your colleague, Dr. Wakimoto, is part of the survey crew. Is there anything that he can find post-tornado that will help him analyze this tornado? Because it doesn't look to me like there was any structural damage. Can he determine anything from, say, ground scour or crop damage?
Well, yes, sometimes you can, and they also have the capability, they have the resources that they can rent, say, some type of a small aircraft and go up and look from the air. And sometimes you can indeed find converging patterns in the crop fields there that will indicate where the tornado was. Sometimes you may find little looping patterns in the crop pattern that may suggest that there may have been hidden inside that big tornado some embedded funnel clouds. So yes, indeed, I expect that they will be doing some aerial overflights to see if there was some embedded substructure, suction vortices as they're called, the little mini tornadoes revolving about the parent tornado.
Again, Vortex 2 has been on the road for roughly 4 weeks, have not seen a tornado so far, and today they pretty much hit the jackpot. A complete formation and dissipation of a tornado from start to finish. They got on it early, deployed every piece of equipment that they have, and a perfect tornado to sample. Absolutely ideal. Open farmland, unpopulated area, perfect view. You can see for miles, an obvious advantage to the flat terrain and more of an elevated prospect on some of the roadways as well. Certainly from our vantage point, we could see the tornado from miles away, and then it dissipated as it came towards us as it moved more or less southeast or east-southeast on the ground for roughly 20 or 25 minutes. Now, Dr. Forbes, when they go post-analysis on this data and they combine 10 different radars, that in itself has got to be some of the most valuable data that has ever been sampled on a tornado.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. They can take the wind from the radars, pointing at it at different directions, and use that to get the full horizontal and vertical wind fields, the updrafts within the storm. They have multiple radars. Some of them are going to get the tornado structure. They have several Doppler radars that can measure very, very fine scales. They have some of the radars that can measure debris versus hail versus raindrops and different sizes of raindrops, and can measure that within the storm and relate that to the rear flank downdraft and perhaps why it was warm or cool or lukewarm. And so just a tremendous data set here, combining that data with balloon data that they send up, the stick nets, the pods, a tremendous data set. That's why they have such an armada of vehicles, because they want to get all types of measurements, the comprehensive data set that no previous experiment has been able to get. And that comprehensive data set allows you to answer lots of questions about tornadoes and how they form.
If I look post-storm, Dr. Forbes, if I look back to the west or the northwest here, you can almost now see clearing in the skies. We've got wind, but appears now much cooler air. We've got the wind in behind and a much more stable atmosphere in behind the storm itself.
Yes, indeed. The storm has passed now, and you're in the rain-cooled dome of air in behind it, and so indeed it's probably heading off toward your east or your east-northeast at this point.
Dr. Forbes, when you analyze this currently on radar, do you anticipate there being any re-strengthening of this storm? Could there be the possibility of yet another tornado?
Yeah, it certainly looks like there could. Can we go to our 3D radar or one of our radars, and we'll take a look at it? A few minutes ago we took a look at it. It certainly did have still had an appendage coming out the southwest side. It still looked pretty impressive. It was still a supercell thunderstorm from radar vantage point, and so we are still having the possibilities of this storm produce another tornado. There still is a tornado warning in effect for another half hour, for especially for and maybe some new warnings that have come out. We have a tornado warning now for Sheridan County, Bucks Butte County in Nebraska. These are both in Nebraska, and still for Banner County in Nebraska. So still the possibility of this moving, this tornado, this storm producing additional tornadoes as it heads eastward.
Dr. Forbes, I want you to look at one more thing here. I look off behind me here, and what looks to be, I mean, can